What is going on, YouTube? It's Outdoors with Tim, and we're here at the garden in the backyard. And I've decided to make this little video to explain to some of my viewers and new potential viewers, subscribers, the kind of things that I use in the garden that are very helpful to kickstart your garden if you're new to gardening or you've tried it, a couple of times in the past, and you just weren't too sure if you did some of the right things the last time you planted a garden, or you had some good yield on your vegetables and then you didn't have such a good yield on other vegetables. And I want to share some of the products that I use. None of these products that I'll be sharing are endorsing my channel. I'm not getting any kickbacks or any sponsorship at all. It's just common sense. After I've gardened in the years past, I have had many gardens as a young boy growing up, and really didn't understand the chemistry behind fertilization and pollination, proper soil content and pH levels and things like that. Now that I'm older and I've got a little bit more understanding on how some of this stuff works, but I'm always learning. I'm always willing to listen to other people speak, but this is just a little bit of what I do here in my backyard, just to bring in some fresh vegetables that I grew that aren't covered in pesticides or some kind of steroid or whatever, other than nitrogen and just natural fertilization from you can buy compost, you can make your own compost, that kind of thing, slow release nitrogen and stuff that's added to the compost you purchase at your home improvement stores in the garden section, or larger big box stores that carry some really good product. But anyway, I wanted to share with you some of the stuff that I use. And one of the things that I use, especially if I'm going to transplant something from a garden pot and I'm going to use it and then plant that and transplant that plant from a garden pot that I purchased in the store to a larger pot to keep on the back porch, I wanted to show you some of the soils and potting soils and stuff like that I use that actually work really well. And one of them is the garden soil, and it's basically compost in a bag, and you've probably seen it before. It's a Miracle-Gro product, and it's a slow release nitrogen pellet that's in this stuff here. Let's see if I can get the camera to move down a little bit. And this stuff works really well for plants that are already growing, that have already sprouted. I imagine you could also do some seedlings in this, but they would have to be on a larger scale of a seed, like a corn or a bean, something like that, or maybe even a cucumber or a squash seed would do good in this here. You definitely wouldn't want to go with a small seed like a carrot, or okra seed might do good. Okay, that's probably borderline, just because it is a little bit larger stuff in here. I'll show you, but this is, it's just compost, and a lot of people make this stuff right there in their backyard through the winter months. They throw out the potato peels, banana peels, onion peels, and they make their own compost, eggshells and so on. But this is a good product to definitely transplant those young plants. When you buy like 6 tomato plants and they're all in like a family pack is what I call them, and you're trying to transplant them, this is a good product to put into a larger pot to move those little plants from the family pack into individual pots. And this other product that I have over here is, let me slide this back, and this other product I have right here is, as you can see, it says for in-ground use, and it's a garden soil. It's an all-purpose. And now if you're going to be planting, let me see if I got a pot here. I think I got a pot here. If you're going to be planting in a pot this size, this is about a 3.5 gallon, 4 gallon pot. It's pretty big. If you're going to be planting into this, you don't want to use your good compost soil to fill up this whole thing, unless you just absolutely have lots of it to go around. Then you could, but you would. What I do is I use this all-purpose in-ground. I use it to be as a filler. I usually bring it up about a third or maybe halfway with that, and then I put the compost in there, and then of course I make my little hole, and then I transplant my plants in here to you know, however many I want to put in there. But it saves on the compost, and you just substitute, you know, the all-purpose as a filler to kind of take up some space in here. And this is some really good stuff. It's actually feeds plants up to 3 months, and so you really don't have to add any nitrogen unless you really want to give your plants a boost, you know, in case like they get transplant shock when you transplant them from their small family pack into a larger dish. Sometimes you'll see the leaves get a little wilty looking, like, oh, can't believe that just happened to me. And sometimes you want to give them a little boost of, you know, encouragement that everything's okay, and get comfortable, get happy, okay, little plant, because you need to grow strong and tall. But it's a good product to use. It's to build strong roots. This is a thicker, more wood in it, so it holds moisture. It's good to put around the base of your plants, you know, after you've got them transplanted. Put it up around it, so when you water your garden, the sun, when it comes out in the middle of the day, it doesn't dry out the root base on those delicate plants like peppers and jalapenos, and your maybe even your zucchini plants, collard plants, young collard plants. You can get it around them real good. It's just a great way to hold moisture in as you're watering them, and then through those hot days, the heat doesn't have a tendency to dry out the ground and the root system around that young plant. And you know, you watered it the evening before, and if you went out there the next afternoon and moved this larger all-purpose stuff out the way, it would still be moist underneath there from you watering it the night before. So that's upside. That's definitely upside. And one of the other things too is this little thing here. This is a lifesaver. This is a refill Miracle-Gro plant and vegetable food. It attaches to the garden hose. It has a lock on it for those people out there who are going to be watering for a while and they don't want to sit there and squeeze this thing and wear their fingers out, because it will drive you crazy if you hold it long enough. It has 3 different settings on it. It has a shower, a jet, and a mist. And on delicate plants, I like to use the mist. And when the plants get about 4 and 6 inches tall, I like to use the shower. The shower works great. And it is a great way to make sure your plants are getting plenty of nitrogen, plenty of plant food. And also, there's one other product in here. I believe it's, let me say if I'm saying it right. It's phosphate, soluble phosphate. And those are some of the key ingredients that are good for young plants. And I hope I pronounced that right. And I've never been good at pronouncing weird words. So, and I'm sure there's many of you out there that are the same way. One other thing you need to make sure you have in your gardening, if you're starting out, is a good little, I call it a rainbow type sprinkler. And this one has settings on it. And you can get these at your local Home Depot or Lowe's Home Improvement. And it's got, you know, where it just goes to the left and back to the center, or it'll just go to the right and back to the center, or it'll just go from left to right, depending on, you know, how much area you have. It has a really cool setting on it. It's an inexpensive water sprinkler. It works very well, and it's just something that you will need if you're doing backyard gardening for sure. And you know, the compost definitely is really good to have. And I'll show you, because this is one that I'm working on here, and these are fixing to be transplanted into the garden soon. And hopefully I can bring you along when I do the transplant on this and give you an in-depth, inside look at what I do when I transplant young garden plants like these. Now, I've topped these out already, and they are doing really good. I mean, I probably see 5 or 6 buds already on each plant, and after they produce, I probably will top them out one more time, and I'll try to get somewhere about a dozen or so. And these are bell peppers, by the way. These are the Bonnie green bell pepper, sweet bell peppers. I'll try to get at least 2 dozen bell peppers throughout the season off of each plant. I think that's going to be the limit on these guys, unless I really feed them good and they surprise me. But yeah, I fill up this container right here with the all-purpose soil mixture, and then I put this, of course, the garden soil, vegetable and herbs, plant food. It feeds them up to 3 months, just like this does. But I use that to bring these up. You know, I don't fill it up with the good stuff all the way, but I put the filler in there, and then I put this other Miracle-Gro supplement in there, and that way this product goes a lot further. So anyway, those are just some tips I wanted to share with you, and this is pretty much common sense. A lot of this, if you just check out your other fellow YouTubers on gardening channels and find out what works for them, especially in the area that you're going to be planning on gardening in. I would definitely take heed to what a lot of those guys say, because they have been doing it a long time and they know a thing or two. Also, save your garden tabs. These garden tabs right here that come with your plants, because you can reuse them for the following year, and they have some really good information on there. They actually have on the distance apart, on how far you should plant the plant apart, the actual temperature that they should be planted. They just have some really good information on them, and that way you don't forget what you planted when they're such a young plant and they're not producing fruit and vegetables for you yet. Put them at the end of your garden, and that way when you walk out there and say, oh yeah, that's where I planted zucchini, or I planted cucumbers there. Okay, now it's just a good way to keep up with these. I see people just say, sometimes when they make a garden in their backyard, they throw them away, and then they're like, well, now I got to wait 6 or 8 weeks to figure out what it is I planted there, because they threw away the ID tag. So just some good information to go with. But anyway, I'm going to pan the camera around and kind of let you see what I got going there. And I've got a couple of plants that I've transplanted, some jalapeno plants that I transplanted yesterday afternoon. I didn't make a video of that, but I've got a couple of plants in there that look like they've just been wilted by the sun, and I think that's the shock of being transplanted after sundown. And I've already watered the garden once today, and I will water it again this evening, but I'm going to make sure that I actually have a bag of the Miracle-Gro fruit and vegetable plant food. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some of that around those plants, so it'll be slowly released as I water each time. It will feed those plants, especially the ones that are looking kind of wilted, and they'll jump back up in a night or two, and I won't lose them, and they'll get back into happy mode, is what I like to say. Happy plants is always a good thing. So let me turn the camera around and I'll let you look at the garden here. Well, that's it. It's not a very big garden. It's a small garden. My wife and I have fun with it, and we'll get a lot of things out of it this year. If you just spend a couple dollars and buy a few things to nourish the plants and keep them fed, they will produce good vegetables and good fruit, and a lot of it, and you'll get to enjoy it this summer. Anyway, the audio might be a little different today. I usually don't use my shotgun mic, but because I'm outside and the songbirds are singing a little bit, you may hear a motorcycle or a vehicle in the background, and that's because I live in the town limits and there's a highway not too far away, so you may hear some of that. But I appreciate each and every one of you tagging along on this video. If you will, remember to hit that subscribe button, and if you will, give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. I hope you enjoyed this video. I just want to thank you all for coming along, watching the videos again. And if you will, tell your friends and family about Outdoors with Tim. And we'll see you next time. From South Carolina, y'all have a great one.